So here on today's show, it is Wednesday. I want to introduce my friend, Benjamin Carlton.
Oh, he's a good name.
Onto the show. Is he on here? Because I ain't hear his little voice. There he go. And listen, he comes in full. Listen, he comes in the full of it all. Listen, thank you so much. Thank you. We got to make
Oh, man.
Green, baby.
Welcome to the show, brother. Welcome to the show. Put that mess down, but welcome to the show.
Oh, y'all, Chief striking. Hey, Dwayne, go ahead and stream right now. It's okay.
I told you it's going to be a moment, but as we settle down, the energy from Florida A&M is always high. What's up, Ben? How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing really good. I'm happy that we can get you on the show. Thank you so much for reaching out. I mean, that's something that I should have been thought about, but you tapped my shoulder. You was like, girl, listen, it's time. What's up? Let's have these conversations, and I appreciate you for that. You initially reached out to me about MJ, who won the Golden Globes, or the first chance to win the Golden Globes award, and you wanted to have that conversation. I know that was just at the beginning of this year, just a few weeks ago, but I still think that conversation is actually really, really pertinent, even with you being who you are. And I know that we'll get to that as well in this show, but there's just so much to go around that. Before we talk about that, though, I want you to introduce yourself to my audience.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you. I am Benjamin Carlton, actor, activist, and author of I'm Black, I'm a Minister, and I'm Gay, and founder of Stand for Love. And I hail from the number one HBCU in the nation, the illustrious Florida University. And I am excited to be with you. Originally from Philly, the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection. I'm now in LA trying to change lives through the power of the pen and the power of storytelling. And I stand for, Black rights, LGBTQ rights, youth rights, worked extensively in a lot of youth spaces, just coming from a role of being a interim chief equity officer for Friends of the Children, an org that provides a mentor for children ages kindergarten all the way up until 12th grade. So I heard y'all talking about, COVID and its impact on youth and families, and we dealt with that this entire pandemic on what is best for youth against the crazy laws that are coming out of state houses across the country. People have lost their minds.
Yes, sir.
And capitalism literally trumps, all pun intended, health and safety and security. So, yeah.
Oh, no, that's a great point, right? It is about capitalism. It's money over everything, money over people. They rather us spend money and die spending money. That's just what it is. But that's another story for another day. We need to bring you on so we can have conversations, because that is what a Florida A&M Rattler can do. They can be here, there, and everywhere.
You know, Rebecca. Listen, we would not interrupt your interview if you were not interjecting so much foolishness about Florida A&M. Brother, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it. Go ahead, Rebecca.
But I wanted to go back to the MJ Rodriguez. I know you reached out to me about the importance of that. So let's start there. MJ, who is trans and is an actor from the show Pose, right? And I know that's a very, very popular show. But her winning this Golden Globes award, why is that such a huge thing? Why should we be looking at that as something groundbreaking?
First of all, and let me say congratulations to MJ, who is an amazing, talented artist who
absolutely.
Shattered glass ceilings, but baby, she tore the building down. And this is why it's important, because it is so essential that people get their just due, and that we start honoring truth. And I'll take you on a journey. Black culture, African-American culture, Black culture is literally the heartbeat of the world. You can go anywhere in the world, listen to hip hop and R&B. You go to India, you go to China, you go to Australia, and they are mimicking Black culture, African-American culture. Right. But when you think about where Black and African-American culture comes from, it comes from queer culture. During the 80s and the 90s, all of the culture that was coming from the underground world of the queer community. All the slang, all the terminology was coming from the underground queer community, being stolen and being used, and they were making money from it. And that community never got its just due. If you think about today, who was writing all of our favorite movies? Who's writing all of our favorite songs? Where do the best gospel songs come from? Who's designing all of it,
brother?
Well,
all of that comes from Black queer community. So if you follow the path, and if you can add 1 + 1, and if A + B = C, Black queer culture is the heartbeat of the world. And we are finally getting just due, and we need to keep our foot on the gas and keep our foot on everybody's necks to remind you, listen, this is where you get that slang from. This is where you got that. This is where you got the hairstyle from. Black queer people.
Let's talk about it.
Can I talk?
Okay, Rebecca, he's cool. He's cool, Rebecca. He's cool. He's cool, Rebecca. That's what I'm saying. He's cool.
Even though he
he's
went
cool.
to FAMU, he's cool.
Even though he went
to accent what he's saying there, brother. Because 2 other names that I think about on a regular basis. When I think about the civil rights movement, I can't think about it without James Baldwin, Bayard Rustin, and so many other names who, at the time, were giving their life's contribution. They put it all out there. But Black America and America in general was not ready to accept the brilliance because of their sexuality. But to this day, one of the most brilliant minds in the entire conversation about civil rights was James Baldwin.
Absolutely. Stand for Love and Native Son are partnering for Black History Month to launch a campaign called We Are Black History Too, celebrating America's Black queeros. And it's all about letting people know, listen, we would not have a civil rights movement without Black queer people. We wouldn't have the Harlem Renaissance without Black queer people. We wouldn't have an elevation of thought and an elevation in literature without Black queer people. We are literally everywhere at the source of everything, but because of age-old doctrine, because of scripture that's misinterpreted, because of people's personal ignorances, we are ignored and shunned. The one and only time I was disappointed, but I also understood the predicament he was in, Dr. Martin Luther King, is when they didn't want him, one, to do the march, but they didn't want him to disrupt the Democratic National Convention. So they sent Black politicians and representatives and said, if you continue on with what you're doing, we're going to start spreading rumors that you and Bayard Rustin are having an affair. And Dr. Martin Luther King did himself from Bayard for just a moment and then backed down. But then eventually, love triumphed, and we had the March on Washington, and they were back in. But we are at the heart of everything. Every major event in this country, we were at the heart of it.
And do you think that it's important to bring a lot of attention to MJ Rodriguez getting this award, because it would be so easy, because she's a part of the LGBTQIA community, to erase it
for
out
Kyle
of history.
Rittenhouse.
As you were just stating that, in a lot of these movements, a lot of things couldn't happen, and a lot of people kept quiet about the people who were at the head of the movement because of their sexualities. So do you think that it's important to continue to focus on her getting this Golden Globe? Because somewhere in history, like even 10 years from now, they will try to wash it away and just continue on and move forward with just like without that being something that was historic.
It's important because it gives some type of reward and relief the people who've been fighting for years. The people, like you said, who've committed their lives to the cause. When they see this, it makes the fight worth it. But it also is so important for the people coming up behind us. There are some people, there are a lot of youth who only knew a Black president at one point. Do you know what that did for them? And so for a queer youth or a trans youth to turn on their television and see that somebody like them has won one of the top awards for their talent speaks volumes. So it's so important to continue to uplift it, to continue to tell the story. People say, we don't care about your sexuality. We don't care about, and you do. Or they're trying to have a parental rights bill, but literally it's the Don't Say Gay bill, where they don't want teachers to talk about gender and sexuality in school. And so they're trying to erase who we are legally. We are facing discrimination at levels like never before because they're trying to take us backwards through the power of law. And so, yes, they do care. We need to keep uplifting these stories and focusing on people like that.
Rebecca, just to what he said, there is that law. We had Chevron Jones, State Senator Chevron Jones, on the show last week,
and another rattler about that.
Damn it! I'm trying to help the segment. You keep talking about these damn.
I don't like him no more, Rebecca. I don't like him no more.
Right.
Chevron is from FAMU. He had a clip go viral yesterday calling out Ron DeSantis for this anti-gay. They literally have a bill saying that you cannot say the word gay in classrooms. Mm-hmm. I mean, listen, this is the height of absurdity because, one, let's not pretend. And actually, let me drill down real quick, Rebecca, before I toss it back to you. In the Black community, listen, I don't have the best record. You can read my book, God is Not a Republican. I was extremely homophobic, and I have grown and evolved from that. What bothers me about it now is looking back, I'm like, why Black folks act like we ain't got gay folks in our community, trans people in our community, LGBT queer people in our, why do we like to act like Black folks can be anything but queer?
Well, Benjamin, and I'm queer. I was the minister getting up telling people you're going to go to hell for being gay on Sunday, and I was in a man's bed on Monday. And so it is cultural influence. It is our rearing. It is actually in my book, I talk about how white supremacy and the colonial and the Atlantic slave trade and colonialism disrupted indigenous love all around the world. In Native America, Africa, in Australia, in South America, they celebrated all types of love, all types of queer people, all types of, folks who didn't fit the heteronormative ideal. And so colonialism uprooted that and disrupted it. And it has been a fight ever since. It is in our history books that there were gay kings, lesbian queens, and they celebrated two-spirited people. I mean, because it was natural. It is human, right? What really makes me upset is that 1 in 1,000 people are born both male and female in the world. Do you know how many people that is? So why are we acting like there's only male and female when people are literally born with both? And you won't know where they land, because if you don't disrupt it with surgeries and pills and hormones and all that, they will grow up to be beautiful humans, both male and female. So it's more than male and female, and that's fact.
See, I done got. See, now you're talking doctrine. So, please, Reverend, I don't know your title, but what sexuality is a spirit? What gender is a spirit?
None.
Rebecca, I'm done. Go ahead. You got it.
So Queen, I do have, Ben, first of all, congratulations on your success, and I certainly appreciate the insight. But here's one of the most basic questions that I've pondered. The term queer, it's often been described as offensive, and by definition, it could be described as strange. And so when I'm hearing you talk, and what my own beliefs are is in the humanity of humans, I find it interesting that you and members of the community would consider themselves strange, queer. If you could, some insight, please, my brother.
So initially, that word was used to discriminate, to hate, similar to the N-word, right? It was used to discriminate and hate.
If you don't mind, I'd like to stop you. I just like to stop you. I don't draw any similarities between the N-word and any other word.
Let me help him understand. The one thing that me and Brother Mac almost got into it over was the N-word, y'all. So yeah.
Okay, so if you could go ahead with it, I could get it. I don't think any comparisons to that out.
Unless you identify as a member of the LGBTQ community, you can't relate the N-word to the queer word because you're not queer. So you don't know what the word does to you, and you don't know the power.
That's right. Absolutely.
That's something. That's something.
That makes sense.
And so
that's real.
You got the floor.
Before my time, the queer was used as an offensive word. Somewhere as I was coming up, the community adopted it as our own word and begin to use that to represent anything that is outside the straight, cisgendered, heteronormative. And that just means you identify with the gender that you were born with, and you are attracted and have an orientation for the opposite sex. Anything that falls outside of that has been deemed queer because there's so much that can fall outside of that. So we don't deem it strange. We just have a word that represents everything, because people get so overwhelmed with all of the letters of the LGBTQ AI plus community, because there's so many ways that
right.
And so we just lumped it all with queer. If you're not actually be straight, you can be a cisgender, right? There are literally men who like to dress up in female, feminine, identifying clothing, attire, wear makeup, but they are straight and they are cisgender. But they will be queer because they fall outside of what people consider heteronormal cisgender activity.
So basically, from my just lay understanding, if I ever use the term queer, I'm not insulting any. I mean, I'm sure I could use it in an insulting way, but it's not deemed insulting if I say the word queer in company of queer people.
Yes, absolutely.
And the reason I'm saying that, because see, I don't want no white folks thinking they can come around me and thinking they're cool and go, yo, you're going to get your ass busted.
The white meat.
Oh, I'm sorry.
To the white meat.
My bad, my apologies. But anyway, thank you so much. But literally, thank you so much for the understanding, seriously. And
these are the types of conversations that need to be had.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Ben.
No, I was just saying, I get your correlation of what you were saying earlier of the words not being similar in that regard. And you're asking, you better not come around. You get your ass busted with me.
Right. But I will say this, Ben, your explanation was incredibly insightful, and I so appreciate it. Incredibly insightful to me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate the conversation, because what we see here are, Black people, because we're not a monolith, but having a conversation where we're letting people understand each and every parts of us. The LGBTQIA plus community, needs to be understood. And so does, and it's, you might look at a man who is cisgendered, who is considered masculine, and somebody who just really don't know and has actual questions and just want some understanding. And I'm happy that we have people like Ben and Bubba. Bubba's our DJ, Ben, who's also part of the LGBTQIA plus community. And people may look at him. We always say that people may look at Bubba and say, oh, he's gay, but he is. He's a part of the
community. Looking like Rick Ross, big old bouncer.
That's what they'll say. And, and people go off of those looks and just assume. But with you, going off of looks, going off of the fact that you're a pastor, you say, you're Black, you're a minister, and you're gay, the name of your book. Could you tell us a little bit about that? Because that right there is not, to a lot of people, normal.
Yes, I thought it was so important to tell my story because, as Benjamin mentioned earlier, with him being homophobic, I was very homophobic because at the very age of 4 and 5, I was taught that boys kissing boys is a no-no. And that was when I started to suppress who I really was and put on an identity, a persona, a mask that would make me acceptable to the world. And so I spent a majority of my life in hiding in DL culture and then trying to figure out, why would God make me this way if it was so wrong? And to your point earlier, Benjamin, about why Black people act like there's not gay people, I didn't know too many. The only thing I knew about the gay community, that it was perverts, freaks, and pedophiles, because that's the message that was pressed in church. And so when I finally launched into the world and launched my career with J.P. Morgan and Pricewaterhouse, and they had these affinity groups, and I met gay CEOs and Black gay vice presidents, and then when I co-founded BB Community, I'm traveling the world connecting with Black men across the country and meeting Black gay pastors, Black gay politicians, Malcolm Kenyatta, Chevron Jones. I mean, all of these Black people that in roles that I aspire to be, and God began to show me who I could be. I was like, why were y'all acting like gay was new? Why are y'all acting like gay just came around? Gay's been here. What is going on here? And so I preach now, you have to give people space to be ignorant, but give them the love and knowledge they need to overcome that ignorance, because I once lived in it. And it wasn't until I was introduced to a narrative, introduced to an environment and people that were not like me, that I was able to counter that narrative. It was easy for me to believe that gay people were going to hell, because that's all I knew.
That's right.
Okay, so Ben, let me ask this. Let me ask this question. When did you know? And I'm asking that question from this way. From the time I was a little boy, when I seen that pretty little girl, you know, shit happened for me, right? So at what point did you know?
I love the way you phrased that.
You got a man and shit began to happen for you. When did you know?
That's a good question.
I said, do it again.
Wait, say that again?
Wait. Hang on. I missed that. Please say that one more time for the people in the back. What'd you say?
I said, when that doctor slapped my behind, I said, do it again.
That's real though. Honestly, look, because when I came up, it was one of those things. It was like, oh, okay. Like I had. It was so bad in kindergarten when I was a little boy. The white girls used to kiss all on me. But the principal used to call the school and tell them, like, James is getting kissed on by all the white girls in school, and we think it's a problem. I ain't want none of them. It was just something to do at the point at that time. But when I can remember when I was younger and not feeling that attraction to females. I never dwelled onto it because, like Benjamin said, coming up in the black church and the black families, it was always looked on as something is wrong with you. You shouldn't be this way, and anything. You shouldn't be looking at boys like that is totally wrong. That was all we were taught. And granted, mom and daddy weren't the type that were just like forcing it on you, but it was just society. It was society that was forcing it.
Yeah.
All right, so let me ask this, gentlemen. Is that given that somewhere you knew, you have, because, you know, for me, I've never looked at a man and got turned on. It just hadn't happened. No disrespect. You know, I look at a sister, you know. But to that point, but so
it's so dramatic.
Do you think that there are people who absolutely choose to experience the gay and lesbian lifestyle? Like in your case, I'm hearing it's like it was innate. Like it was just born, like you just always had this. But are there people who just absolutely choose to want to go that route, experience it?
So I'll explain it this way. We are born who we are. We are born with everything we need the day we're born. We're born with our likes. We're born with our dislikes. We're born with our innocence. We're born with all of these beautiful things. And then society comes in and says, nope, take that out. Nope, take that out. Nope, take. If we were all able to be born into a place where we could be ourselves no matter what, people would come to the understanding that they like more than just the opposite sex early on. Just like you said, no one could make you like and be attracted to another man. That is not something you just do. It is always in. It's life experiences that will push you in one direction or another of something that you already are. People say, oh, I don't want people saying gay in school. I don't want people watching gayness on TV. It's going to turn my child gay. If your child becomes gay watching an episode of Pose, guess what? Your child is gay. Already. Because I've watched a bunch of, I love the Cosbys. Don't remember any gay characters on the Cosbys. And baby, you couldn't turn me straight if you wanted to.
This is we live this morning, y'all. We are LIV.
And I know we're running towards the end of the show. This is a great conversation. I absolutely love it. But I wanted to get this in there. I remember, and what you're saying is, is honest, and you're absolutely right. But I wanted to put this in there. I remember us, being in school together at the #1 HBCU in the nation,
Christ.
sitting on the highest of 7 hills in Tallahassee, Florida. As we were working at 90.5, and you were Brother Ben at the time. That was your name. And you used to be my spiritual advisor, me and Markia, shout out to Markia, our spiritual advisor up at 90.5, but we used to always I used to literally always tell her, he is gay. Like, he's gay. And I remember this vividly. And you probably don't. Conversation that was had, and we were having it. And again, we were all brought up to be very homophobic. I just talked about that yesterday on the show, how me being very young, having to hold those signs up during car washes, and I thought that was very homophobic. And I just went to my trans friend's wedding on Saturday.
I didn't know you were actually holding the signs, Rebecca.
Holding up signs in the people's streets. My God, today.
Wow.
But I remember this conversation being had. We were all standing outside, us, the DJs, having some drama with the other people. But I remember us having, and you were saying something about, them gay people or something. We were all but all of us were included into it. But the conversation didn't feel right with none of us. And then I was like, Markia, that man is gay. And then I absolutely love when you finally came to a point when you came out. It blew everybody's mind though, because it was like, I guess we've all been in rooms where we were subjected to having these conversations that were actually hurtful at the time. But because of how we were brought up, and in the black church, and mine a black Haitian church, so it was extra, and it was like, they kind of taught us how to hate people because they were gay. Yeah. Now, they focus on this one sin, and I had to get with my parents about it. They focus on this one sin, but I've been in these streets. You see what I'm saying? Loving the Lord and in these streets in so many more ways. So I know that there's so many different sins. So, let he who was without sin cast the first stone. Ain't that what the Bible says? Something like that.
I ain't been to church in a long time since the pandemic.
Okay.
First of all, a lot of sin is man-made. I actually just posted about it. Has nothing to do with the tenets, has nothing to do with godliness, right? Jesus said, love God and love your neighbor and you'll be all right. Literally, that's scripture.
That's
love
it.
God,
that's it.
Love your. You can hang every other law on those two scriptures. Most people don't love God. They love church. Most people don't love God. They love the appearance of perfection. And that's why you can be in church, backbiting and lying and see nothing wrong with it. But me being gay is the biggest of sins. Right. And so when you look at, again, this whiteness, this European, when you look at what the popes did and the Catholic Church did and what they deemed sin, first of all, the word homosexual didn't get into the Bible until 1946. And they began to change words like pervert and masturbator and pedophile into homosexual. And there was a theologian at Harvard that said, if you change these words to homosexual, you will weaponize the Bible against the people. They didn't listen to him. And then they wrote back to him and said, you're right. And they didn't undo it until 1977, but by then the damage had been done.
Damn.
Right. And so people don't know the true translation of all the scriptures that come against homosexuality because no one is vested in doing the extra work. If there were scriptures that said black people are wrong and black people, are going to go to hell, people will be vested in doing the work to make sure we prove those scriptures aren't true. But because those scriptures agree with something you already believe, you're not going to do the extra work to prove them wrong. And prove them wrong.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, listen, we could take this to forever, but that we're going to have you back on the show. Ben, I love you so much. I'm happy that I had you on my show. Listen, this is the result of what Florida A&M can do. For us, because people will never
Rebecca,
you. Okay, but
well,
God
look,
is good.
This is the product of what Bethune-Cookman University can do right here. Benjamin Dixon and Bubba Williams. God dang it!
It's looking
the whole morning show.
The whole morning show.
The whole morning show.
But no, seriously, thank you so much, Ben. Thank you so much, Ben, for coming on to the show. This was a great conversation. We really need to have you back. And before we get out of here, let the audience know how they can find you.
Well, first, thank y'all for having me. Thank you for this platform. Thank you for allowing me to be authentic. You can find me on the social sphere at Ben Carlton, IBENCARLTON. And you can check out my book at www.blacklovewins.com. Black blacklovewins.com. And it's so important because Black love does win. They use blackness to push the Love Wins campaign and then dropped us like a bad habit after the laws got passed. So,
Right.
Wow.
Amen.
See, we're gonna bring you
That's
back
okay.
definitely for sure. Especially
up.
with all that nice kente
No.
cloth. You know,
Okay.
it's gonna be
Okay.
real black
Yes.
next month. So
We
be
love the
prepared. We're
kente
gonna
cloth.
tap your shoulder to come on back to the show. Thank you, Ben.
Yeah.
Love you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, my
Go-
brother. Thank
go
you so
and be
much. And
great,
we're going to
man.
have more Wildcats on the next one, man. Rebecca, DJ exclusive. Y'all know what to do, man.
All right, y'all. See you in the after party.